Hello to all of you from around the world. I want to welcome you back to another great edition of Soulivity Today. We are broadcasting live from our studio right here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. My name is Brian Wesley Johnson, and I hope that you are having an amazing week. We're glad that you're here because I'm joined today by the host of Consciously Awesome Living, Sheila Applegate, and Dr. Chanel DeGuzman, senior Soulivity contributor. Good morning to both of you. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. It's great to be back with Dr. Chanel.
Absolutely,
Yay.
absolutely. Yay!
So good to be back.
What have you guys been up to? I mean, Chanel, we've been missing you. You've had you've been traveling, right? You've been doing some different things and
Yeah, I had a few conferences that I attended, and um, that was more or less it. And then of course Thanksgiving was last week, so
right.
I got to tell you, I got to mark the occasion. So this was the first time that Gian came home from college officially, and
Oh,
Mm.
then we sent him back, and just even though it's 40 miles up the road,
right,
but
right,
I had a
right, right.
chance to fix him his going back to college dinner for the first time, and it was just significant.
Yeah.
It's just a little bitty thing that I never would have thought that I would have a first send my kid back to school dinner. And then he emailed that night, or he texted that night and told me how much he appreciated. It was such a wonderful meal and how much he loved me. And I was just like, oh
Oh,
my God. So
oh.
that was the top of my week,
That's wonderful.
guys. And so it's only gotten better since then.
Wow,
And
that's
it's great to be back with you both.
well, that is a wonderful experience. I'm glad that he um was able to share that, right? That
Yes. Yeah.
um that home cooked meal, you know, it's a
Yes.
whole lot better
Yeah. Yeah.
than that dorm food or whatever.
Dorm food. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, we had a show yesterday, Sheila, that was fantastic with Renee Hager Smith on, during a loss to suicide in terms of like love, compassion. What have you been up to since then? I mean, what was your day like after that?
Oh, it was it was work, which I love. I got to so I do have some exciting news. My manuscript is completed its final edits, and I'm working
Wow!
on the
Yay.
submission.
Woohoo! That's
Packet,
Congratulations.
great.
yeah, the proposal. So that's exciting. Yeah, and now I have to dive into just getting everything together. I actually have someone to help me with a proposal because that's an art in itself, and I put a lot of time into it, but that doesn't
Right.
mean that I'm saying the right things. So I reached out for help from a specialist, so
Good for
I'm
you.
excited about that.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
Blessings on
fantastic.
that.
So
Yes.
I know, right? So much stuff is happening.
Yeah.
And I guess today's show is a little bit about that too. There's a lot of stuff happening
A lot of
in
stuff.
the
Yeah.
world today. Oh my gosh. So you guys have heard of the old saying, "You're not in Kansas anymore," right? You both have
Yes.
heard of that, right?
Hmm.
Well, we're
Well,
doing a
Steph is
different
from
take.
Kansas, so we hear that a
Right,
lot.
right, right. Well, we're taking that a little bit further and kind of flipping it. And we're going to be asking the question today, what's going on in Kansas? And you see this, and we're asking this question, and you're probably asking yourself right now, like, what the heck, right? What is this all about? Well, listen, we're going to try and answer that question, especially with my two great co-hosts today. But we need some help to get things started in terms of answering this specific question. And I'm being mysterious because I really want you guys to take in what we're about to talk about today because it's an important topic. It's something that's been in the news off and on in different ways, but this is something very special. And so we've gone out on YouTube, and to the rescue is one of our favorite YouTubers, Bo of the Fifth Column.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we are going to talk about little turtles in Kansas and hairstyles. Because there's been some developments in Kansas involving an elementary school and their policy when it comes to hair length. And the American Civil Liberties Union is getting involved. They have contacted the school on behalf of an 8-year-old boy who was allegedly forced to cut his hair. He is native. He made the decision to grow his hair after attending the Gathering of Little Turtles, which is it's an event. I think it occurs in June. It's geared towards ages 5 to 15 in there, and it's designed to put them in touch with their cultural and spiritual beliefs. The school has a policy about hair length, and it only applies to boys. The ACLU is saying that this policy violates not only, religious freedom, but there's also sex-based discrimination going on. The reporting says that his mother actually reached out to the school, tried to get an exemption. They said there weren't any exemptions, and the ACLU is saying this violates not just federal law, but state law too. And this is one of those things where if there isn't a remedy pretty quickly, it will probably proceed to a courtroom setting. My understanding is that at this point, the ACLU is just kind of like, hey, here you go. You need to fix this. You have until December 1st, is what I believe they were told. If you are not aware, the hair length, it is not it's not something that is taken lightly. A decision like that is not taken lightly. It is something that is, for people who talk about, closely held religious beliefs and all of that stuff, and that should be grounds to just do or not do anything, you really don't get more closely held religious belief than this. This is important. And I'm curious to see what the school does and whether or not this proceeds to levels above just, hey, you need to change this. My guess and my understanding of at least the federal side of this is that the ACLU would win, and probably pretty quickly. But this is one we'll keep following it, and I will keep you posted. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.
I can't, y'all.
I know, Brian. I know.
I can't. So we're going to be talking about this today, y'all. Because what is going on in Kansas? I mean, a year and a half ago, a little under a year and a half ago, they had the referendum on a woman's right to choose, and it passed. People thought it was going to be close, but it passed overwhelmingly. Thank goodness, in my opinion, like 2-1, 3-1. Now this year, we got this school with this policy, which we're going to show a little bit later. We're going to actually dig deep into this, but just first and foremost, Sheila, you graciously found this story for us to talk about. What did you just find it? Did someone tell you about it? How did your knowledge of what was happening there kind of
I'm
come
an
out?
avid Bo listener, so that it was bound to happen.
Right.
And then but it hit me, I think it went up right before Thanksgiving too, which is just like another stab that this happened right before Thanksgiving when, you think about the myth versus the truth of
Right.
the genocide in our country. But it hit home. Of course, I understand. I have a deep understanding of the hair, that what it means to the indigenous people of this land, and and the understanding of the boarding schools where they first thing they did was cut their hair to try to cut the native out of them, or
Right.
um,
Right.
and it's all about control and our school system trying to keep people in line, because the hair doesn't really matter as far as
Right.
the length in a school, right?
Right.
It's hit me on a second level too, because they pointed out the gender issue, which would bother me anyway, because I'm all about, like I'm not for the disparity of gender, discrimination in the way people are supposed to dress at school, things like that. But it also hit home on that issue because I thought about my child, who growing up had long hair, um, for as long as they were able to choose, right? And thinking
Right.
back on it now, understanding that they're transgender, how it like broke my heart to think about one more thing that somebody would have to conform to at a young age. And there isn't
Right.
that kind of, you don't have you, girls are allowed to have short hair, like
Right.
you could
Right.
have whatever hair. So that kind of broke my heart on that level too. So I think that's where it hit home. It was the intersection of the two. And then
Hmm.
always the excitement that people are, that it isn't going to work out. The ACLU is
Right.
there. They're clarifying, they're pointing out both the gender and the religion. So there's excitement about the movement forward as well, I guess. Those
Mm,
were my
mm,
thoughts
mm.
to start with.
Chanel, specific, specifically sisters across this
Right.
country have dealt with this hair thing where school districts and other, and it doesn't happen at the state level, this always happens in schools, right? It's almost like it's insidious, right?
Mhm.
Where school districts have been trying to control
Just
how specifically sisters have worn their hair, may
Mhm.
it be in braids, locks, the length of the hair, afros. I mean, what are your thoughts when you hear about this 8-year-old boy being
Well,
allegedly forced to cut his hair that way?
right, right,
I'll
right.
let you have the floor.
Well, like, yeah. So, when you were shaking your head at first, the audience may or may not be able to have seen you do that. But when you say you can't, it's like I can't, Brian. I mean, I have to really guard myself because um I feel empowered. I have choice, like Sheila said. So we both have boys, right? And so, or when they
Mhm.
were growing up, right? And so my little boy had long, curly black hair. Oh, it's
Wow.
just beautiful.
Wow.
Why am I always talking about my little
Wow.
boy? Long, beautiful black hair. So everybody, of course, was saying, "Oh, she's so beautiful." Oh, everywhere
uh,
and so when he went to school, Sheila, we this 2.5-year-old going to school, we did make the
Mm.
choice. We had the power. We had
right.
the liberty to decide to cut our little boy's hair.
Right.
Okay, so that's all
Mhm.
done. And so now he does whatever he wants with his hair, right? But this family in particular did not feel like they had that choice. The mom felt like
Right.
in order for her son not to be suspended, she had to comply with the conformity of the dominant white culture, right?
Right.
This is what this is all
Mhm.
about, whether it deals with African American women or, women of color and their hair, their styles, which, we also have our hair cut in school too without parent permission, at least in this well, not
Mm-hmm.
at least, but in this regard, the parent was involved. We have talked on this show where the teacher just takes it upon him or herself to go ahead and cut the child's hair, or the referee
Ooh.
cuts the child's hair without the parent's permission. Now that would just send me to places that I would
Right.
not even
Oh
dare
yeah.
want to bring up here on this
Exactly.
show. But the bottom line, Brian, is that this is a lack of power among certain people whose culture have been, assassinated.
Right.
And this continues to happen in 2023, heading into 2024. So, yes, we will watch the ACLU and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But it is heartbreaking, and the trauma, you guys, and I know we'll talk about this, the
Mhm.
trauma, this has already happened. Whatever the ACLU
Right.
Right.
comes back with, the trauma is already done. And so I'd
Yeah.
love to
Mhm.
know what is being addressed to help this young boy
Right.
deal with this trauma, this assault,
Right.
and then the other kids who
Mhm.
maybe have already dealt with this, only he's the one now, this is, getting the spotlight.
Right.
Right.
Well, I just want to make sure that as we're talking about this, because I'm with both of you on this, right? It's about choice, it's about a lack of respect, right, of both the parents, the boy, and the other aspects of culture, and you know and the lack of, and the disregard to the history too, because this is part of our history, as Sheila was brought out about, boarding
Mhm.
schools and Native Americans, and how they were forced to cut their hair as to
Mhm.
so there's some racist stuff going on here too. um I want to put up the policy itself here really quickly, and as you can see, this is the Hatterlin Elementary, the Girard Trojans. Go down here to page 4 of it, and this we'll have this available in our chat as well. You'll see the dress code, and for students are expected to dress in a manner that will not be disruptive to the educational atmosphere of schools. Students whose appearance is disrupted or extreme will be requested to make the necessary adjustments as determined by the principal, right? So take that all in context, right? And then down below it says boys hair length. Hair is not to touch the collar of a crew neck t-shirt, cover the eyebrows, or extend below the earlobes. Ponytails, rat tails, or any other style that would circumvent the policy are not permitted. Now, look, it's boys. There's nothing for girls,
Right.
right? That's one. And then there's no exceptions to this whatsoever, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so you got to ask the question, why did they have this policy in the first place? And so, you know, Sheila, what did you think when you read that? Because I know you read the policy too. 'Cause um,
Right. I mean, it's clear discrimination. That's the first thing, that it is about the boys. And all of that. So many of the different, the dyeing of the hair, the
yeah,
piercing, it is a organization taking control over another person's body, which
yeah,
should be decided within the family, right?
yeah,
And it does stem from keeping out the people who have not been in the elite status. I think, for it's like, we're going to hold this is what makes you okay in our
right,
society. It's taking out all of their creativity, all of their power, and submitting them to the control of capitalism, really. I mean, if we want
Mm-hmm.
to get really big,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just feel like it's all about suppression and control. Um, that's what they're doing right there. They're trying to cut the individuality out of the people.
Mm-hmm. 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 What about you? What about you, Dr. Chanel? What are you thinking when you heard that policy?
Well, some of the language, um, I think, goes to, for example, to limit distractions or to enhance the educational environment. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
bringing your whole self to an educational environment, which includes cultural expressions of who you are, actually benefit the educational environment because the more students can bring all of themselves into educational environment, it enriches um, the dialogue, the exchange, the receptivity to knowledge versus being shut down because you don't have free expression. You are being limited. You are being suppressed, like Sheila said. You can't have suppression and engagement in
Right.
the learning environment at the same time, right? And
Right.
so that's just a
Hmm.
minute aspect, in my opinion. Again, this goes back to traumatized have difficulty learning. There are, you know, reactions in the brain in the front um, cortex that literally shut down the receptivity for learning. So now you've
Wow.
got pretty much a person,
Hmm.
a young person in class who probably is not engaged, is probably not receiving the new knowledge or able to integrate, previous knowledge with knowledge that's being presented in front of in the classroom. I mean, you really have to look at the psychological harm that's being done to people when you assault their culture and physically, have some kind of a removal, like such as cutting this person, having to make the decision to cut the little boy's hair. Um, it's
Mm.
just policies that are hidden, and you saw that one person has the discretion to make the decision, the head of the school, the principal. If the head
Right.
of the school is continuing to perpetrate or to continue dominant cultural norms, then that decision is already done and over. It's just a matter of now it coming to light and somebody
Right.
willing to step out and do something about it.
Which the ACLU has decided to do. You know, listen, let's take a pause right there and let all of this kind of sink in terms of this discussion. Let people kind of even go out and read the links that we put online for them to absorb, because I think both of you have brought up this cultural aspect of what's happening in Kansas with this story. Let's dig into that and even read a little bit of a response from the Wyandotte Nation to this school and this district and the policy that's there so we can get a fuller picture. So, everybody, stay where you are. We're going to be staying on this story, and we'll be right back with more of Soulivity today in just a couple of minutes.
Do you see me kneeling on this dual roller called Parasetter? It's actually comfortable because of this channel and the softness of the special foam. It feels like my kneecaps are being massaged. When I lie down, my spine is housed in this channel, while the convex rollers massage my muscles. They let go and lengthen. There's a traction effect from my head on the headrest and my mid-back from the rib wrap, which hugs me. When I start the breathing sequence, I feel calm because my cortisol levels are dropping. Lower cortisol means bye-bye constant hunger. Parasetter is 40 inches long and much more comfortable than old-style rollers, but it weighs only 10 ounces. Parasetter, just like Pilates was, is no longer an insider secret. Do yourself a favor. Reset your parasympathetic nervous system. Defeat stress. Lying, sitting, kneeling, or standing. This unique patented roller helps everyone.
Six years ago, when I started Soulivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose so they could become the best version of themselves, to battle fear and ignorance and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit soulivity.com now.
Hey, everybody, we are back with more of Soulivity today. We are talking about this 8-year-old Native American boy who was allegedly forced to cut his hair or be sent home in order to comply with a policy that was part of the Girard, Kansas school district. Both of you were talking about this cultural aspect of this story that I think is so vitally important for us to talk about. And the fact that Bo from the fifth column was talking about the fact that this was all part of a ceremony, a rite of passage for this young man, and that his hair and their hair as a group, as a cultural group, is vitally important to their heritage. And so I wanted to kind of read a little bit of what the Wyandotte Nation said about this. It's a great statement, and we'll post it online for you guys. But it is, I mean, heartbreaking as I read the full thing. But I'm just going to read just a piece, and I'll read this piece, which says, "For centuries, tribal people have faced a siege of cultural oppression. This oppression has taken many forms, including but not limited to the forced cutting of Native American men and boys' hair in order to impose conformity with dominant white culture and to stifle long-held religious and traditional Native American practices and beliefs. The apex of this oppressive tactic can be found during the tragic Indian boarding school era, when Native children were taken from their homes and communities, relocated to strange and distant boarding schools, and forcibly assimilated through, among other means, the cutting short of boys' hair." There you go. There you go.
Mhm.
I'll let either one of you speak on this.
Well, I can just tell you how wrenching of my heart it feels to, continue to grapple with this again, 2023, 2024, is enough. And of course, my culture, from being taken from, your native land into
Mm-hmm.
a new
Mhm.
environment and stripped of your language, of your heritage, and then to forcibly having to assimilate. So this is the same, very similar tracks, right? Except in
Mhm.
addition, to the native land being taken. So then you still, even to this day, still continue to um, assassinate the cultural traditions. And this is
Yeah.
a young boy, coming into, just like we have rites of passage in our culture, and we have those ceremonies and the markings of becoming, you know, in tune with your culture and embracing your culture, and then to experience that and then just have that taken away and stripped away is just a continual stripping away of people's culture sense of, And it's just simply heartbreaking, and especially because it happens at such a young age. Um, you know, hopefully with resources, hopefully with, I don't know, Brian, if it's realistic, with counseling and so forth,
Yeah.
this person will be able to, and if there's laws passed, will be able to regrow his hair and to embrace those aspects of his culture that continue to keep him close and to
Yeah.
keep him learning more about, the heritage, um, and the expression of the practices and beliefs of his native culture. It's like the least that can be done, right?
Right. Right.
In my opinion.
Right. I love that. Sheila, as I was doing my research on this, and thank you for providing the documentation for the Wyandotte Nation. Um, I wanted to know where this school was in Kansas. This school is not, I won't say it's not even 100 miles, 150 miles north of the Cherokee Nation reservation.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that, and then coupling that with the policy, I can't help but think that they knew what they were doing when they put this in place, knowing that Native Americans in our country are known for wearing ponytails, known for having their hair long, and they're going to put in a policy specifically for boys to have their hair cut short.
Mm-hmm.
I'll
Yeah,
let you respond.
well, I think you're probably right. That definitely stems within our culture from the suppression of um, indigenous people going back to the day. I also thought about the 60s and the musical Hair, and
Uh,
that it represents
Mhm.
freedom, right? When they start
right.
to step out of the norms. So I think it could be multi-layered, but you know, they, so when we were looking at this and it was the Wyandotte, I looked up, I thought, okay, that's an indigenous name. Let me try to find out how to pronounce it. And I got the pronunciation that you used, and I could only get that through the English speaking
Right.
perspective. And so I did a
Right.
little bit more research of this tribe, and they're actually were part of what we would most know, the Hurons. So they were
Mm-hmm.
from around here, and they were
Right.
multiple tribes that when the Haudenosaunee created the Confederacy, they created a group, and they were moved from here in upstate New York higher
Yep.
up to Canada, between the border of Canada and the United States. They
Yep.
were moved to Kansas and given this land. So they were already stripped away. So just the fact that this is the school district that's using their name that is white, already been made colonized, and then you add this whole image. And the other heartbreaking thing is you guys can understand, because Dr. Schnell, I was thinking of that when you were speaking, like, this is someone whose culture, they were stripped from their land. They didn't
Right.
have to cross the ocean, but they still lost that that heritage in the
Right.
process. And this 8-year-old boy was just reconnecting to it. So it was stripped away. The family maybe wasn't able to hold the traditions because of that. And then they give him this opportunity to reconnect and find his culture, and then he gets home and they strip it once again. It just is, it's heartbreaking, right?
Yeah. And we're really talking about this again because these are the stories. I mean, Sheila, if you hadn't shared this, I would have never have heard about this
Mm-hmm.
Right.
at all
Right.
because it wouldn't have been on. It's not on national news. It's not happening on national
Right.
news. It's not.
Right.
It's not anywhere around that. And so, and if it's happening in this school district, you better
Exactly.
know that it's happening in other ones as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And,
Hmm.
you know, and so um, we want to shine lights on this stuff. We really, 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 really do. And I just wish we had, wish we had more time and kind of, to talk even more about all this, but we're going to keep doing it, everybody. We're going to keep doing it. Listen, we got to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to get, I'll call them final thoughts from you guys, but it's really, you know, kind of summations of what you're thinking, what you're feeling about all this, and maybe some suggestions about what we need to do as a nation. So we're going to take a quick break, everybody, and we'll be back with more of Soulivity today.
Hi there, Sheila Applegate here with some exciting news. I've joined the incredible Soulivity team as the host of the new Consciously Awesome live show, where I will be sharing insights to help you discover your full brilliance and claim the vibrant life you deserve. So, tune in every Wednesday right here on Soulivity TV to join the fun, and remember to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a single episode. Have an awesome week, and I will see you on Wednesday.
Would you like to be one of the first people to experience mental freedom? Mental freedom is a coaching practice with 6 core principles: improving hope, self-efficacy, optimism, resilience, and general well-being. Mental freedom only takes 6 sessions. It is designed to give you the tools you need to help yourself. It can help with any situation: relationship problems, past trauma, career decisions, parenting challenges, addiction, and mental health concerns. Incorporating the mental freedom framework into your life will deliver an approach to master any situation and a pathway toward achieving inner peace. Mental freedom provides the information and tools that you need to grow and be bigger than anything that ever happens to you. So if you're looking for one-on-one or a group coaching program that will allow you to address any situation that comes up in your life with practical tools to give you more peace and joy, then join the Mental Freedom Program in Soulivity's Aspire Academy. There are very limited spots available, so don't delay. I hope to see you there.
Hey, we're back with more of Soulivity today. Sheila, you found this fantastic story, and fantastic in that we should be talking about this. What final thoughts do you have that you're thinking of right now?
What I'm thinking of now is that when people say, I don't understand systemic racism, this is systemic racism. It's so integrated into our society in ways that we may overlook. And if it doesn't affect us personally, we may not put our energy towards it. And so to understand the depth of it and to start to notice it is so essential and important, and to speak out even when it doesn't affect you directly.
Right.
But at the same time, I am thinking, so I spent time with my nephews and nieces and over the holidays and other young people, young adults. And there is definitely the people who are feeling like our world it just doesn't get better. It just gets worse because so many of these things are coming up, and there's almost a despair about the future for some people. And I think it's important to notice that this is being taken care of. Like even though this is it's out there, but it's already been passed federally, statewide in Kansas. Like things are happening, and I think we
Right.
do need to focus on that side of it too, so that we realize that it looks horrible at times and it's tiring, but we are making progress, because if we don't focus on that, I think that we can fall into hopelessness or despair.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that important, important, important reminder for all of us. Dr. Chanel, what are you thinking right now? What are you feeling right now about this story as a final kind of summation?
Well, first of all, I want to just echo everything Sheila said. That was very well put, Sheila. For me, it goes back to this cultural oppression. And yes, it's deep-seated and systemic racism. And it also just continues to show that certain people hold power, and you can couch certain oppressions in language, in policies that, people are not going to
Mhm.
read, and then you can reference back to it and hold it up as a flag to say it's in the policy. But yet a young boy at this point and others, um, have to deal with the magnitude of this cultural oppression via the trauma that follows, and that will be deep
Mhm.
seated until there's a remedy and until there is some healing, and not only in this family, but in the community, and throughout our society. And so the way that I feel personally about it, so we do our centering before we go on.
Yeah,
I feel like I've got to
yeah.
go back now because my chest is enraged. It
Oh,
has sensations inside of it that's going off.
yeah,
um
yeah,
because I have to temper, you guys. I do feel like I'm an empowered woman, and
yeah.
I feel like I have voice. I feel like I have agency, and my heart goes out to those families, this mother who didn't have voice, who doesn't have agency and the power yet to
Mhm.
have prevented this from happening. Now, of course,
Yeah.
again, we hope the legal aspects come out in the favor, of this issue. But in the meantime, yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and calm down and keep my privilege in check,
Right.
because I'm just enraged at this point, and
Mhm.
just thankful, for that I do have choice and agency and voice.
Thank you for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you both. I think what I'm thinking about right now is um, remembering both of what you guys are saying. Stay connected, stay empowered, keep your eye on the prize in terms of what's happening in context with the arc of justice, right? That arc of justice that Dr. Martin Luther King talks about, that it bends, right? It bends toward justice. It's bending toward that. There is progress being made, regardless of whether or not you particularly see it or not. It's still being made, right? Um, um, and I found this wonderful quote by Dr. Maya Angelou, um, uh, our dear sister in love, who's still supporting us from on the other side of the veil,
Mm.
who said, "We all should know that diversity makes for a rich tapestry. And we must understand that all the threads of the tapestry are equal in value no matter what their color." And I look at this rich heritage of our First Nation people as part of this tapestry that I think in many cases like this, we've lost sight of, right? And that we need to not only recognize it, but bring it to the forefront and see how it interweaves into our communities and our society as a whole for the better. Um, um, there's so much more that we have in common than we do differences. And when we are, you know, highlighting the differences, that just splits us apart. And we start seeing division, and you're like this, and then that becomes something else. you're the cause of my misery because you're different, on all these other things. And so we've got to move away from that. And that's what I think the main reason why we wanted to cover this today. And so I want to thank both of you for um, being in and being part of this discussion, and that we're going to continue to talk about stuff like this to make sure that we're doing our part in moving things ahead and bringing about the appreciation and honoring of this rich tapestry that we are all part of. So
Brian, can I say that's a beautiful quote. I'm so glad that you shared that. That does
Mm-hmm.
help. And when you start to strip away little threads of each person's contribution, you weaken the whole tapestry. So that's a
absolutely,
beautiful,
Right.
beautiful quote. Thank you
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Why don't we get to some shameless plugs here? That will help people, because you guys are providing things along with Soulivity to help uplift people and help them move forward. Makes try to make sense out of some nonsense, because this is some nonsense over here in Kansas that shouldn't be going on, in my opinion. Sheila, you've got something that is beautiful that's coming up on December 16th, this next month. Can you tell people about the wonder and beauty of fractal illumination?
Yes. So Fractal Illumination Gathering is on December 16th from 1 to 5 Eastern Time. And this is a day of receiving for those who participate. You are in a safe space, and we draw through Zach, my partner Zach, and I have a technique that was gifted to us from Spirit, and it allows us to help you get into a space of harmony during the chaos in the world. So it's a really important thing to nurture yourself during this time so you can be a change agent, because you're refueling and harmonizing so we can move forward.
Fantastic, fantastic. Chanel, first, I'm going to go to your lovely book that you have available, that's available at the Go Shop and on Amazon. Can you tell people a little bit about this? Because I think when people come back to themselves and learn to love themselves, that'll alleviate some of these issues.
It'll alleviate some of them, absolutely. And it always comes back to us. This is always about us at the deep soul level. And so, yeah, the book is really intended and written to empower women, especially to conquer their lingering trauma so that they can cultivate confidence in their purpose and obtain self efficacy that Sheila talked about, and enabling them to achieve
Beautiful.
anything that they desire. And so we do this as not only through writing, so you can always get the book on Amazon or through Soulivity, but also through leadership development and retreats. And so the bottom line is that we want to inspire women to rise and reclaim their power and brilliance and be able to make substantial impact in their lives and in their families, as well as in society at large. So love
Wow.
you to grab the book, love for you to reach out to me for a free consultation.
Absolutely. And they can dial 313-410-9909 for that complimentary coaching session with Dr. Chanel. Just want to remind people that we've got some fantastic things happening at soulivity.com. We've got a fantastic Soulivity exclusive that is the first of many features that are part of our Bridging the Gap Health Equity for All continuing series. We did an interview with Dr. Lindy Richardson, who's the founding co-director of the Institute for Health Equity Research at Mount Sinai Health System in New York City, and it is fabulous, y'all. Go check it out. Go read it today. You'll be blown away. Also, remember to follow us on social media, where you can find even more information, great tips, great how-tos, that are shared that are both in our they're both at soulivity.com, but also on our social media that you may not see anywhere else. Remember to follow us on our YouTube channel, subscribe, so that you can know every time that we go live, and you can watch and rewatch any of our Soulivity TV shows. Guys, man, what a show today. Thank you for your light and love. I had prepared for this show. We had been, Sheila, you've been sending over some things, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to do this. And, and then as we were getting into it, I was getting mad. And so
I know.
and I'm like, okay, all right here. I got a little anger going on, a little anger happening.
Yes.
And so thank you
Anger
for
turns into passion and makes action.
And action.
So we're good.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I think one last thing I'll say before we get out of here is want to send some light and some love to this 8-year-old boy and his family as they navigate the days going ahead.
Yes.
The ACLU has already filed a lawsuit. They are demanding action by tomorrow, correct, Sheila? It's December 1st.
Yeah.
Or they're gonna follow and do other things around this. And so their journey is going to be challenging. And so we want to make sure that we're wrapping them and that whole community in some light and love as they move forward. Praying and sending support out to all of you. So just wanted to do that. Listen, we're almost out of time. Thanks to both of you again for being here. And thanks to all of you out there for joining us for another Soulivity today. Listen, this is how we do it Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern on all of our live streamed Soulivity TV channels, or you can watch us or listen to us at KMET 1490 AM radio out in Southern California at 8 a.m. Pacific drive time out there for all of you guys out on the West Coast. Listen, until next time, keep using passion and purpose to create your high quality life today of not just surviving, but living and thriving. We'll see you next time.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its